Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Custom World Live. Adrian Sellers again here, coming to you from live lockdown in the UK, where it is not so summery any longer. We've gone back to British weather. It's really unfortunate. I hear everybody in India is having a somewhat more warm time of it. Today we're here with a really special guest, one of the most prolific and awesome quality builders to take on the Royal Enfield range of motorcycles, Ricardo from Bulleteer Customs.
Hey,
how's it going,
hi,
Ricardo?
hi,
Thanks for
Adam.
joining us.
Going good. How are you doing?
We're doing okay here. We're doing okay. So you've been building
All right.
Royal Enfields for quite a few years now, I understand.
Yeah, quite a long time now. It's almost what we started in 2007. So yeah, about 13 years now.
Impressive. And as of 2 years ago, we have the beauty that's just behind our images here, the
hmm
Hooligan. I guess we released this in 2018 at Rider Mania. Is that about right?
That's right. Yeah, best day of my
And
life
just
so
so
far.
everybody knows, ah, you don't need to say that. Um,
Yeah.
so just so everybody here knows, this build was part of our launch year for the 650 Twins. We did a couple builds around the world. And when it came to do a couple builds in India, the list was really short. People we knew we had to work with, and Bulleteer Ricardo was right at the top of that list because he has
Wow.
just been doing Royal Enfields forever, man. So we knew we had to have one of the first 650s, from Bulleteer.
Thank you.
Talking about Rider Mania a little bit. So this is not the first time we've been together talking in front of a whole bunch of people about this build. How was that, man? I mean, this. I guess probably started a couple months in advance, and then finally getting to Rider Mania. And I understand you rode the bike to Rider Mania. Is that right?
Yeah, we couldn't really get transport figured out in time, and it all worked to my advantage because that's what I really wanted to do always. I love building bikes and riding them, and this is the most special one we've had. So I just couldn't have it, got to go in any other way.
Brilliant. I mean, that's what we want out of a build. Not only beautiful but rideable too. These two do not
Yeah,
necessarily go together, but well played there, man. Well played. So, how did it feel to get
thanks.
out there in front of everybody? And obviously, there are thousands of people to see the bike revealed. What was that
hmm
like?
Well, we've presented bikes to clients, but this I must say was totally humbling. It is out of this world. I mean, to see so many people waiting for it, and I remember ours was the first unveil at the Rider Mania, and the crowd was crazy. And it just felt so humbling. I mean, that's all I could say. I mean, the moment I seen all of them just going crazy and screaming, to be quite frank, I was a bit overwhelmed. And thanks, Aiden. I remember
Awesome.
us talking backstage, and then we were out there, and wow, it was totally sublime.
And this wasn't the first time you were on stage at Rider Mania. I think a couple years back, you were also on the
Yeah,
stage.
yeah,
This
2014.
was
Uh,
yeah.
we'd been to Rider Mania since 2011, and
Hmm.
they used to have this custom bike competition. And for the first 2 years, we didn't really win anything. And then 2014, well, that was my lucky year, I guess. We got these two awesome bikes, and we were judged by Pierre Treblanc. And I've been following his career, for a long time. I love the work with the Ducati and the Hypermotard. And for that guy to give me an award like that, man, I had my dad there to see me getting it.
Check that off
Well,
the
quite
bucket list.
honestly, yeah, bucket list. One of the last checks my dad had.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
it
so
was
and
something out of this world.
I understand your dad was responsible for your love for Royal Enfields as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he was my first influence, and the earliest memories I have of the Royal Enfield was sitting on his 1974 Enfield Deluxe and sitting on his tank and pushing his hands off the handlebar. I always wanted to get a grip, and then finally he did. It was a lot of years back. I mean, after that, and we made a lot of rides. My dad was a very passionate guy, and everything he would say about Royal Enfield was always legendary. He would, there was a time where my taste buds hadn't matured yet, and I was asking him, like, why is the Royal Enfield better than the rest of, the bikes that we have? You have, the different bikes around there, faster and lighter and things like that. And my dad said, think about it like holding a screwdriver or a little plastic hammer in your hand. And then how would you feel if you had a sledgehammer? That's exactly how it feels with the Royal Enfield. And then
Awesome.
I remember thinking to myself, yeah, custom bikes, they're definitely like tall Molyneux, man. Custom Royal Enfield's got to feel like that.
I understand you. It's not just from your father to son, but also from you to your son as well. See that you're
Yeah,
passing on the love here.
yeah. I find myself, blabbering on and on about Royal Enfield and how great it is. And my son's totally digging it. He can't wait to get his set of wheels. And right now, he's my most troublesome customer. I'm billing him a bike, and he just doesn't just he just can't let it go. He's talking to me about it all the time and asking me when he's going to get a ride. I keep telling him next Rider Mania, he's definitely going to be there.
We've got a second generation builder in the works then here.
Yeah, I know. I'm busy nowadays filling his head and his heart with Royal Enfield, just like my dad did.
Speaking of your heart here, I understand this bike has a special place for you. It's maybe it was your first Rider Mania build, is that right?
Yes, this was my first Rider Mania build, and I've built a couple of bikes before this, but this is the bike that got me to quit my job. So I count that as one of the most memorable builds that we've had. It's a 1984 classic. I mean, sorry, Enfield cast iron bow. The one that my dad gifted me, and it turned out to be a lab rat. So it was the first bike that we really, pushed the envelope of engineering and everything that I had. I put into it. Quit my job and got myself a welding kit. I seen this wheel that was taken off my car, and what you see on the picture there is my Tata Estates red tire with the alloy and everything. Of course, we put motorcycle tires on it, and that was the start of my passion towards custom building. For all it says, yeah.
And you hasn't let up at all. I mean, you turn out quite a few bikes a year across all
Hmm.
different styles, across all different categories. I mean, I'm looking at sort of choppers here. I'm looking at cafe racers. Are these
Yeah.
sort of directions something that that you're deciding, you're putting into it, or are you working with clients to decide the direction, or how does that dynamic work for you?
Well, when I started off, I just wanted to push myself, push what I knew about engineering and things like that. So we were building the biggest and baddest and meanest customs out there. We built a 240 tire and really, really bad, aggressive bikes. And then I realized that a custom bike business is all about the clientele. And this actually reflects the various kinds of clients that we work with. And you can't
Hmm.
expect them all to be the same. And it's only a challenge. And if it's something that I haven't done before, that's the best reason to actually do it. And I've loved every minute of it, every single minute of it. I love my cafe racers, and I love my spin on the bobbers. And there are bikes that are in between bobbers and cafe racers, and just bikes that feel good, like just bikes that feel
Hmm.
good. And I love exciting my fans online, and they are the ones that really, while I've been building bikes, they are the ones who built us as a company, started from scratch,
Yeah.
the absolute story, and I love the
Most
variety that
definitely.
I can actually provide to them. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Too cool. Well, today we are here to talk about something that started as one of these, our very own Royal
Mm-hmm.
Enfield Interceptor 650
Yeah.
twin. I believe you
Mm-hmm.
had even a pre-production unit for your
Yeah.
build. Um,
Yeah.
so starting from this base, we
Mm-hmm.
got to somewhere that was quite a bit different, and yet still carried a lot of the same flavor to it. What for you led to these choices? Obviously you got those nice fat tires on there. You've tightened things up a bit. What got you from the Interceptor to the Hooligan?
Well, it's all you actually, Aiden. I remember you telling me that I could do whatever I want, and that's not something you get to hear a lot from clients. And I respect that. I respect that because for the first time, it's the most special build we've ever had because I had to build something that I like. Absolutely. And thank you for that. Thanks, Royal Enfield. But yeah, I remember you saying to keep the essence of the bike, and then I think from our conversations, it was leading to something like a brat kind of a build. I remember
Mm,
doing the initial sketch of a scrambler, and
yep.
then we thought, oversized tires would really, pop the proportion of this bike, and yeah, named it Hooligan. That's a funny story actually. When I was young, I used to, about 4 or 5 years old, I used to cycle inside the house and ended up breaking a lot of, pots and pans and flower vases and basically making a mess. And I remember my grandma used to say, like, this guy Ricardo is a hooligan. He's just all about the place. Today he broke this and that day he broke that. And I was just having fun. I was just having fun, breaking a lot of things. So Hooligan just stuck, and I just felt that 2 months before you guys approached me, my grandma actually passed away. So I was still
Mm,
thinking about her a lot, and then Hooligan was something that just came out of the blue, man. I mean, it just had to be, and I had to do justice to it. And again, I remember Aiden saying, "Do what you want, but it's got to actually be a hooligan." And that's
yeah.
why the oversized tires and the
Mm,
shortened chassis and basically making the bike look a lot more burly and a lot more grizzly than the original Interceptor, while not changing a lot and keeping to the essence of the bike. And by the way, I'm really happy that I got chosen to build the Brat style of this bike because I'm super super kicked to see the entire world actually going to this particular style for the Interceptor because it's the one that complements it the most, I feel, and it also keeps the riding as a forefront, so you don't get to lose
mm,
like any of the riding charm that it already has.
yeah.
You just bigger and badder and meaner, and
And somehow
it just wins.
more playful as well. I think that's what I
Yeah.
like a lot about the balloon tires and everything is that
Yes.
it's serious, it's badass, but it is not taking itself too seriously. It has a sort of rompy,
Yeah.
fun. You're like a
Yeah.
kid running around the house, kind of a thing to it, and that's just a lot of fun to see in a build like this. Is having a sense of
Yeah.
humor and play to it. But this bike also has a bit of a split personality to it. We're
Hmm.
looking at the same bike here, left side.
Hmm. Hmm.
This
Okay.
has the words Interceptor, not Hooligan, on there. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Where did this come from?
Well, sure. It's all from my. I'm a Gemini basically, and I've always had
Mm,
a tough time deciding between two things that I love. And I love black and I loved white, but to be quite frank, I've not seen this done anywhere around the world. But it's so much more fun when you can encourage both. When you don't really have to make a choice. When you can
yeah,
actually have both these things, you can have a white bike, you can have a black bike as well. I mean, and that opened the doors to so many possibilities. I almost freaked myself out. I mean, what do we do for this side, that side? This has got to be different. That can't be, same as the other side. Asymmetry and then symmetry as well. So it was just very confusing, and
mm,
that's what I love about it. So we made the right side white and the left side black, That goes down to the engine casings as well. So on the right side of the bike, you have the white tank with the completely buffed engine. Now this is also an aluminium buffing that we did by hand and lacquer coated it to preserve the grain in it. And the left side's got an entirely black finish. This is also something where I felt was a great way to actually display how this bike can be finished in so many other ways.
Hmm.
It's yeah. So if you want it black, you can have it in black. You can have the other side white as well, or
Yeah.
chrome. Yeah, just to display exactly what we can do with the finishing aspects of this bike. And that was just the beginning. The moment we heard the word interceptor, I always had this picture in my mind of this American cop car. They're all
Hmm.
black with the white door, and I thought that
Yep.
was one fabulous a combination of colors. So, in spite of the entire black side being black, we had a white side shield with interceptor written on it, and that's what the inspiration came from an American cop car. And
Brilliant.
also, if you look at the black
Well,
side, it's got stuff. Yeah.
no, no, go for it.
Okay. On the black side, we've got stuff written on it like serve to serve and protect, to protect and serve. Just as what is written on the American cop cars. And on the right side, of
Yep.
course, that's my wild side. You got troublemaker. You got stay wild child on the mudguard, and everything
Yeah.
contradictory to what's on the left side. And yeah.
So one of the things that, speaking of finishes that stand out
Uh
here are the tires. Obviously, we talk about
huh.
that with the proportion, the awesome balloon tire
Yes.
rompiness of them.
Uh huh.
How did you get that to work? I mean, that's not painted on the lettering.
Uh,
Is there a process for
no.
that, or?
Well, there's a guy in Pune who actually makes these car stickers, tire stickers. Sorry, and you got to heat press them onto the wheel, onto the tire, and it stays there for good. I mean, if you want to take it off, you take off a piece of the tire as well. So it just becomes one after that, and absolutely durable. Doesn't change color. Doesn't peel off in any way. The tires itself
Hmm,
are. You normally get these tires in a 16, 5.0 16, and I remember you talking about overblown proportions, and I somehow managed to get myself a pair of 5.00 15 tires. So that's what gives it that real donut
nice.
kind of feel to it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they look brilliant. Absolutely love
Yeah,
also how you've carried across the theme of the two different sides to the two different sides of the tires as well. I
yeah,
mean, that's just the next level of detail there. Speaking of
yeah.
details,
Mhm,
we've got a lot of questions from everybody about different parts of the bike. Of course, quite
mhm,
a few about the split personality there, but also about
yeah.
these details like the tail lamps and the instrument cover and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about how
Mhm.
you approach these parts?
Well, see, for me, everything's a story, so this might go into like a 2 hour kind of show, though. But I'll try to make it as short as possible. Well, basically, when I rode the Interceptor for the first time, I mean, it was sublime. I had no clue what to expect. But when I did sit on it, I remember recalling feelings that I had when I rode this bike called the RD350. It was a teenage dream of sorts, man. I mean, it was the first win that I ever threw my leg over, and I remember the hair on my hand standing up. The same kind of feeling I got with the Interceptor. So the tail light on this bike is actually an RD350 piston. Well, don't tell anyone. I had this as an ashtray, and it was one of the most special things in my office. But I just felt that it's just perfect. The size and the form of it. It fit that tail light really well. So I just took it off my office table, washed it up, polished it, got it buffed down, and made that awesome tail light out of it. That's the tail light. And the first Indian superbike from Royal Enfield. I mean, recently I've been reading something that actually mentioned it as the first Indian Royal Enfield superbike. It was the Lightning
Hmm,
535, and
hmm.
I remember it had all the power you can have, and there's no disc brakes on that thing. So it adds to the excitement, trying to get that thing to stop once you're touching about 100. And that's what really inspired the speedometer control on the Hooligan. So I wanted to follow through with the speedometer that I found from the RD350. So we found another Lightning
Hmm,
535 system. And guess what? The speedometer that we chose fit right into that like a glove. And wow,
brilliant.
match made in heaven. That's exactly what I said earlier. So that became the speedometer for the bike, and it couldn't have been
Oh,
better than
too
that.
cool. Yeah, we've also got a bunch of questions about changes like speedometer. Pretty obvious there. It's not a twin cluster like the stock
Hmm.
bike. Obviously, the headlamp we're looking at here is a bit different. Um,
Yeah.
so what informed those choices for you? Obviously, I'll get a little picture of the speedometer here. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're going to a digital unit here. You're going to, is it LEDs or projector on the headlamp?
Yes.
So what were you thinking about? Obviously, of course, you've got upside down forks in there. So these are
Hmm.
definitely a bit more of a modernization on
Hmm.
the stock unit. So what led you there? What got you to add all these different parts in?
Well, as far as the upside down forks were concerned, it always gives the chunkiest look that you can ever have to the front end of a bike. And I
Mm,
love front heavy motorcycle design. It just somehow makes the bike look like it's going fast, even if it's parked in your garage. So the USD forks were there, and in order to fit this 5.0015 tire in, we actually had to make custom T plate and a top plate for the front suspension. So we did that. We put the tire in. I had to build a console for the headlights so that it matches up the difference in dimension. And then
mm,
we put these headlights called Daymakers. It was too normal just to have it in chrome. So what we did was we took the glass out and we tinted it black and we put it back in. So when the lights are off, it just looks like a
cool.
black pearl in the front of the bike. As far as
Yeah.
the speedometer was concerned, yeah. So so basically, even if I was showing the duality in the bike, and the meters would be the absolute right kind of meters, the dual meters to show duality. But I wanted to
Yep.
actually show that the mind is always one. So there's one
Mm,
speedometer there, and there's one display of what you're doing. And of course, the LED backlit LED on the speedometer, there was nothing better than that that I had seen at the time. I just had to have it. And of course, the Lightning
sure.
535 piston, it made my decision a lot more easier.
Yeah.
If
Was
you see
it
the
were
handlebar
these
also,
conversions? Yeah, I did. I did. I
that,
did. Carrying
yeah. So the
everything across
handlebar,
there.
yeah. So we just split that too. We made half of it chrome and half of it black, just to further the duality concept. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just neat how like even when you're sitting on the bike, you're feeling that duality as well. Were these
Hmm.
were these modifications difficult for you to make? Obviously you're swapping out the meters and so on. Is this something that took a lot of fettling, or did they plug and play? How much of a
Hmm.
process was that?
Well, now I just have to say that the Interceptor and like all Royal Enfields are not very complex machinery. They're stuff that you can actually sit and do it yourself. So the speedometer just required the swap of a cable, and that's about it. So technically speaking, it's very very simple to do something like this on an Enfield. You just swap a
Hmm,
cable and you can fit whatever you want on it. It doesn't have extensively complex electronics or anything like that that makes it a cumbersome thing to actually change or customize. The Enfield is
yeah.
like that. We're not only about electronics; it's about everything else as well. It's completely metal, so you can actually weld and add stuff or chop off stuff and things like that without really compromising on a lot of headache in terms of getting things back together, getting stock parts to fit, getting stock wiring to actually work with the bike. It's pretty much a simple thing to do, and especially
Yeah.
with
And so
the Hooligan. Mhm. Go ahead.
no, go for it. Keep going.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to say about the Hooligan is we have done very complex builds in the past, and some major engineering. putting on double chains and, to fit a 240 rear tire and, stretching the chassis, making it really wide and big and bad. But with the Hooligan, I really wanted to, very truly, and this is like almost from the bottom of my heart, I wanted people to understand that they could do this on their own. And I'm sure it's not going to leave me out of business, but but yes, you can. This is something.
That's really
This is an example, yeah, of what you can actually do in a garage or in
mm,
your backyard. Putting parts together. Just make sure you don't do too much that compromises your ride quality. And Enfield is the best platform that you can use to actually experiment and do all this kind of stuff. It's the reason why so many people have been doing it, and it
mm.
also has got this this feeling about it. You want to make it your own. The moment you get an Enfield, the moment you get any Royal Enfield, you immediately want it to be your own. I've seen so many guys about it. 90% of the guys who own Enfield, they have a name for it. And who does that? Who does that for any of the other bikes? I mean,
It's a
so I mean,
special
it's the
crew we
best,
got.
man. It couldn't have been more perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Most definitely. And speaking of sort of ease of modification and so on, we've got a couple questions also about the rim choices and tires and so on. And did they require any change to the sprocket offset or anything to fit the rear tire on, or is it within a close enough width that you're able to fit it with the stock sprocket?
Okay. Well, quite frankly, we've had to do modifications like this on the earlier bikes, like the Classics and the Thunderbirds. But with the Interceptor, I felt that the swing arm was quite big. I mean, it was almost
Mm,
like Royal Enfield anticipated the fact that people are going to be putting bigger tires in it. So it is
mm,
already a bigger swing arm. I really didn't have to do anything to the swing arm, like chop it up or anything like that. But what we did was we got this pair of custom rims and we had to relace them with the original hubs of the Interceptor. So that worked out pretty well. That was it's getting the tires, getting the parts. Most of them, which I imported, are not really easy to come by. And if you want a particular size and it's stuck in your head and you're almost obsessed, until you get it. But that's about it. Otherwise, it's pretty simple.
yeah. Brilliant. And you also have a lot of other really gorgeous details throughout the bike here. So we've got a nice quilted seat replacing the stock unit. Looking how that seam on the back runs right down into the frame line.
Mhm.
How long does it take for you to actually go through one of these to go from start to finish? What sort of what sort of process do you follow?
Okay. Well, basically, the first part of it is normally visualization. So basically, when you have an image in your mind, it's a perfect image. It always helps, to realize it in the end of the day. So the first stage is actually visualizing what you really want to do. And in your mind, unlike reality, you can actually change rake angles and do extensions, and you can do, a hell lot of magic without really doing anything. And that's the best way to start. So you visualize and you see what you can do with it. And the second
Yeah.
phase is really getting it out of your brain and putting it down on paper. So you can see what it looks like. You can show your team, how do you want it to head and things like that. And what I do specifically is, well, I love origami and working with paper. I feel it's a beautiful medium where you can actually cut out shapes and put them on a bike, mock it up completely, take a few pictures, go back home, sleep on it, have a look at how what's happening with the bill, where's it heading, and things like that. When you're finally happy with how it looks in paper, all you got to do is take the paper, take the masking tape off, put it on sheets of metal, and that's the fun part starts. That's where the fun part starts. Bringing it to life. Getting that paper. Paper is not really like metal in any way when it comes to actually shaping it, but it's fun.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's the most
And
fun I've
here
ever
we're
had.
looking at,
So yeah,
we're looking here at a
go ahead.
picture of the Hooligan in process a little bit. It looks
Mm-hmm.
like you've got the exhaust smocked in there, missing a bit of the front end.
Mm-hmm.
Looks
Mm-hmm.
like the tail has been chopped as well. So, got a
Mm-hmm.
couple of questions actually coming in about the exhaust. So, was this a pre-existing unit you got, or did you fabricate the headers and silencers yourself, or what did you go through to get there?
Okay, well, the first thing we did was very recklessly, I may admit, is we chopped it off at the beginning, and then we had to build it back. And I don't really like buying aftermarket parts in terms of bend pipes
Mm,
and stuff like that. And also, it's not really available. So what I wanted to
yeah.
actually do was I wanted my initial idea was to get both the bends on the same side, like
Mm,
the scramblers that we see. But then again, it would be like one of the scramblers that we see. So to maintain the essence of the twin, we actually got these two to turn up almost in a serpentine fashion. We got it to end with these SC Project silencers, which I believe they are the best ones available. They have this rawness about them. They're made in stainless steel and TIG welded, and they're not covered with any kind of finishing. They're just raw and they don't rust. So that's a great thing. I also figured that we shortened the bend travel distance. So it's about 9 inches shorter than the stock pipes. That apparently makes the bike go a little more faster. It makes the revs a little more higher. And
mm.
yeah, it was an unexpected performance increase with these bends.
So we can
Yeah.
point to that for getting you to Rider Mania on time for the announcement.
Oh yeah, that was a ride, man. That was an awesome ride.
I think I had
So
a heart attack when I
there's a
found
lot of.
out you rode the build. It's like,
I'm sorry about that. I thought it would be a secret, but yeah, you got to call someone.
and not to worry, you made it there, so it's all good. I'm glad I didn't know about it before.
I'm glad you're all laughing about it now. Thanks.
Well, it's all fun when
Well,
everything works out, right?
yeah, when it works out, it's all good. Yeah, so I get a lot of questions about the bend pipe. The
Mm,
first thing anybody asks us is like, don't your legs get grilled with that, those hot pipes running just
yeah.
where your legs go through. And for that, what we did was, Royal Enfield always had this history with guns, right? And I had a look at this World War II. I don't recall what gun it was, but it had this amazing shroud on the barrel,
Mm,
and with holes in them. And there couldn't have been a better heat shield for these pipes. So I just, me and my cousin brother sat together and made these battle shroud kind of exhaust shield for the legs, and they serve its purpose. We also split the
yeah.
riding. I mean, sorry, the foot controls about an inch apart, so
Mm.
that you got just the right space.
And there was no problem riding it. Obviously, you put in a couple of miles getting to Rider Mania. Didn't have any problems with your toasting your legs or anything.
No, no, no. It just looks like it's going to grill your legs, but it doesn't. It just looks like you're one of those brave guys that ride a bike and you got legs of steel and all that. But no, it doesn't do anything like that. It's pretty safe. I've
Brilliant.
tested it
Brilliant.
personally.
Stress test. So another part of the process that we don't often sort of get to see here is the color and graphics part of any
Mhm.
build. It's so important, I
Okay.
mean, particularly for this build, where the duality theme was carried through largely with the color and graphics. But
Mhm.
obviously, this goes into every build you make or any other builder makes. Can you tell us a little bit about that process for applying the paint, getting it right? I mean, here we see you're carefully removing some masking from the tank. What goes into that?
Well, with this particular build, I wanted the bare metal to also be seen. So what we did was we dipped the tank in paint remover, removed every molecule of paint on the bike, I mean on the tank especially, so that we can actually preserve the steel that you see. If you see anything steel
Mm.
finished on the bike, it's not a paint, it's the actual metal on the bike. So that's how we started it, and it's always such a refreshing thing to remove all the paint from the bike and start from scratch. So you can use part of the metal as the graphic on the bike itself. So what I'm doing there
Yeah.
is we had marked off areas of the bike that we would want in the original metal color, and painted the entire bike white and black, and then remove the masking from the metal so that it shows the metal after that. But the one thing for anybody who's trying it at home is when you buff a metal down to its bare finish, stripping it off the paint and stuff like that, it's prone to rust. So if it's not aluminium, you could probably see rust in about 3 to 4 hours. So the first thing you
Mm.
would need to do is you would need to clear coat the entire tank and preserve it from getting any rust on it, and only then you can actually work
Yeah.
on it. So once you do that,
Interesting.
you're good to go. Yeah, and I would love to say I paint my own bikes and all that, but that's a skill set that belongs to my world class painter. Well, I just love masking tape and I love graphics, and I have a ball of a time. The moment he finishes
Yeah.
painting, and then I've got to do my graphic thing. I enjoy that. It's for me, it's the best part of the build because it's got nothing to do with geometry or welding or safety or anything like that. It's just you're free to do whatever you want, and it's the icing on the cake. It's basically that. It's like Christmas, opening your presents on Christmas Day. That's exactly what I'm doing in that.
Yeah. See, it's a very zen process getting all of the masking off and everything. Just taking your
Hmm.
time and carefully removing it. Yeah.
Oh
Nothing
yeah,
quite like that at the end of the process.
I know. I look like Mr. Miyagi there with that the cheeses.
That's a very apt analogy, sir. Master of the build as you are. And yeah, so in sort of in closing, you've given some really awesome advice there. Is there anything else that you would want to say to anybody who is an aspiring builder? Are there any words of wisdom that you can leave everybody with about how to go about it, about how to get into it?
Uh-huh. Well, it's probably going to be a little bit surprising what I've got to say, but it's not that tough. It's really not that tough. I mean, there's no big rocket science to it or anything like that. But just ask yourself if you're willing to give up a lot of things to spend the entire time that you have, on something like this. Because without passion, it really is a tough hill to climb. But when you
Hmm.
have a passion behind it, and when you think that this is what you want to do, and this is the only thing that's going to give you the excitement and the satisfaction and the accomplishment that you're chasing, then this is the way to go. Just go ahead, go for it. Don't worry about the training. You always have YouTube. Don't worry about welding techniques and things like that. It's all over the place. All you need to do is
Hmm.
apply yourself to it. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Start simple. Start with personalization. Start with making a bike almost alive. Give it a name that helps. The moment you have a name, you have a character to it, and it impels you to do more. And but take it easy. Take it easy. Don't go for structural mods. On your first build or anything like that. Visualize what you want your bike to look like, and visualize. Yeah, think about it for a while. But there's the most important part about it is not thinking about it too much, because
Hmm.
I remember being stuck in a phase where I would sit and imagine and visualize, and then there's about 1 or 2 weeks gone by, and I haven't done a thing. So that's another whirlpool that you wouldn't want to get into. So when you have a concept in your mind, I mean, when you feel the itch to actually get it built, go ahead and do it. Do it, even if it's a small thing. If it's as simple as changing a handlebar, go ahead and do it. and you don't really need to go to a mechanic. You don't need to go to a professional to change your handlebar or swap out your wheels and tires and things like that. Just go ahead and do it yourself. And as I said, YouTube, the best master. I mean, that is Mr. Miyagi.
Thanks for that, Ricardo. So no regrets
No
on
worries.
becoming a pro builder. No.
No regrets at all. I mean, it's the best thing that I could have ever done, man. I mean, there's never a sad day. There's never I mean, there are frustrating days. I mean, where you lose a lot of hair and all that. But yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun. There's a challenge every day, and I can't live without it. I can't live without it. I mean, this lockdown has showed me that I could almost get dementia. Just sitting and doing nothing. So I would sneak into the garage, and it was a good thing, the lockdown, because I actually got back to my roots
Hmm.
alone there in the garage, and I started. I have a Scrambler 650 right now, but I ended up stripping it apart and then building a cafe out of it. So you'll see those soon. I'm soon to complete that. So it's just
Brilliant.
that, man. It's just that. If it wasn't about the money, I'd still be doing it. And that's exactly what I want to say. Anybody who's got any inclination of being a custom builder, just go for it.
Rely on the passion. Well,
Yeah,
thank you for that, Ricardo. Thank you for your passion
you're welcome.
going into this
Hmm.
build, and also for joining us today. And for everybody else, we've got a really exciting thing for you here. This is our first film premiere on Custom
Hmm.
World Live, and
All
we've
right.
taken some inspiration from the duality of the Hooligan build for a fun little feature film here. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you again, Ricardo, and we'll be
All right,
seeing you
Aiden.
soon.
Thank you. All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Shipment ready. You got company.
Good eyes on him.